How's it going, y'all? Welcome back to the pregame show. This is the postgame edition. So I just got done watching the NASCAR LA Clash at the Clash at the LA Coliseum, and it was a good race. Martin Truex came out at the end, and he might not have had the best race overall, but at the end of the race he was in front, and in racing that's really all that matters. So yeah, but my overall opinion on the Coliseum, at the Clash, I did think that there were a lot of cautions during the race. Maybe a few too many for me, but being a quarter mile, you just can't really help it sometimes. So anyway, moving to our basketball slate, Saturday, we've had a day to think on those games, So, and really it was a great day for basketball fans all around. So starting off with our Virginia game, Virginia at Vtech, final score 74-68, Virginia Tech won, and 22 points from a guard, Sean Padula, for Virginia Tech, beating their rival at home. That's a really big win for Virginia Tech. Ranked six over ranked six Virginia. It was a sold out crowd, good atmosphere down there in Blacksburg. Our next game, number 8, Kansas at number 13, Iowa State. The final score was 68-53. Iowa State came out on top, and that game, it was a defensive battle, it seemed like the whole time. Iowa State, they led the whole way. They got out to a strong start over Kansas. But this game, it really just shows how good the Big 12 really is. There's a ton of teams up there in the Big 12 that are going to make the tournament in March, and they've got abilities to make the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. And I think Iowa State and Kansas are two of the teams that are in the running for that. In the game, Jalen Wilson, he had 26 points. Pretty big game for him. And the Iowa State crowd, they were rowdy. I seen on ESPN, there were students there before the sun even came up trying to get in this arena. That's just wild. And then overall for Iowa State, it was a great team effort from them. Our next game we have is Purdue at Indiana. The game, it sure did live up to the hype. It was just a classic in Assembly Hall. Indiana, they were up 15 at halftime, but Purdue, they brought it back in the end, which I predicted they would as I was watching the game. I was like, yeah, they'll probably come out of half a little more fired up, make some adjustments. And, they did, and it was a great game in the end. Both of the key players showed up for each team. Trace Jackson Davis had 25 points, 9 for 19 from the field and 7 rebounds. And Zach Edey, he had 33 points, 15 of 19 from the field, and 18 rebounds. Now that 15 and 19, it's just crazy how efficient he is. But he's so tall, he's already at the basket. So all he's got to do is just drop it in there. Overall, I think the atmosphere in Assembly Hall just helped Indiana pull that one out. And they did storm the court at the end, which I don't know how I really feel about it. But, it's a rivalry game, big win for Indiana. Huge game for both programs. So, yeah, I see where they're coming from, I guess. Next game we have is 23 Miami at 20 Clemson. Final score was 78-74. Miami won that one. It was balanced scoring from all the Miami starters. All of them were in double digits, all the starters, but there was only 7 points off of their bench, which I thought was odd. But whoever scores the rock, I guess. And if you score the right one, the other team, you win. That's just basketball for you. I made a comment saying they were a washed-up football school. I don't know. That could be turned to a basketball school. It was a good game. And one question that I have from the game, is the ACC stronger than we think they are? You see all the teams, Virginia, they lost to Vtech. Is Vtech a solid team? Who knows? You got Miami and Clemson. They came in both ranked. I guess they're both solid ball teams. And they do play again on February the 25th. So them two will have a rematch. I'm sure it'll be another good game. Now, the next game, this was just an absolute marquee matchup. North Carolina at Duke, in Durham, in Cameron Indoor. The final score ended up being 63-57, Duke over UNC. It was just a classic vintage Duke versus North Carolina game. There's just not much else to say about it. A big thing from that game, it was Duke's first win over North Carolina without Coach K, and the first game without Coach K against North Carolina. I mean, they had 20 points from Jeremy Roach, and that was key for Duke. They need to have a big performance out of somebody, and Jeremy Roach was the one that stepped up, helped them win the game. They do play again March 4th. It's their last game of the regular season, and it's bound to be a big one down there in Chapel Hill. Some other games that happened. 12 Gonzaga at number 18 St Mary's. Final score was 78-70. St Mary's won in overtime. I mean, it was a good game. St Mary's, it looks like it's a tough place to play in. I mean, Aiden Mahaney, one of St Mary's players, he was 1 for 10 in the first half, but finished the game with 18 points. And at the end of the game, he had 4 fouls in the last 9 minutes, and he didn't foul, and he stayed in the game the rest of the way, helped St. Mary's come over Gonzaga. I didn't realize that rivalry in the West Coast Conference was so fierce between the two squads. I mean, watching the game after I got back from the UK game, it was second half was starting, and man, it was just crazy in there, and the atmosphere and how good both teams were. I mean, St. Mary's, they're usually in March Madness at the end of the year. The 68 teams that make the tournament, and St. Mary's, they just got it done over Gonzaga. Also, number 25 Auburn at number 2 Tennessee. Final score was 46-43 Tennessee over Auburn. It was a slugfest down in Knoxville. I mean, nobody could really score. Defenses were pretty solid, but neither team looked impressive offensively. Next is number 10 Texas at number 7 Kansas State. Texas won 69-66 over Kansas State. And also 15 TCU at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State did win that game 79-73. Now a little recap from our Ivy League special. Cornell at Penn. Penn won that game 92-86, and it was an offensive out, high scoring game for college ball. Jordan Dingle had 27 points for Penn, and Greg Dolan had 29 for Cornell. So, key players for those teams, both showing up, both putting up big numbers, and overall, the home team Penn did win that ball game. Now to cover the local team, the Kentucky Wildcats. Florida did travel up here to Kentucky, and Kentucky won that ball game 72-67. We managed to pull out the victory despite not really being able to keep Colin Castleton in check. He still did go for 25 points, which I thought could have easily been Kentucky's downfall, not being able to contain him. Oscar, in the game, he was 2 for 14 from the field. Colin Castleton at his length, I mean, his arms, they were so long looking at him, he just gave Oscar trouble all night. Oscar couldn't get nothing going. It seemed like he was trying to force stuff. We were settling for jumpers because Castleton's in the paint. Now, I think we're really afraid of him, but we still won the game. Oscar's performance, I mean, it was honestly kind of reminiscent of the Alabama game where he just couldn't get anything going because of the length inside. So I think that just shows how he does struggle against taller opponents, especially does with long arms such as Castleton. Cason Wallace, he stepped up with a huge game, coming back from being injured against Ole Miss. He did have 20 points. And C.J. Frederick, he shot 3 for 6 from 3, which is huge because C.J., he had been shooting statistically worse against better quality opponents compared to the worst opponents. So going 50% from 3, that's a good night for CJ. We also had a big game out of Jacob Toppin. He had 17 and 10, and there was one point in the game he had the ball on the left wing open for 3, which they were leaving him open. So he swings it around, passes. He gets the ball. He's open again. He swings it around, maybe makes a post entry or something. He finally gets it back. They're still leaving him open on his third time on the same possession, open on the left wing. He takes it, shoots it, nothing but net. I mean, it was just beautiful. So, he had to, after making that shot, he had to take another 3. He ended up missing that one, but I mean, it was just good how he finally made the shot, and maybe it increased his confidence throughout the game. Severe Wheeler, I think he played a good ball game. I don't believe he had any turnovers. And how about Damian Collins, folks? I mean, watching him at the end of the game make those 2 free throws to really honestly help us win the ball game on one of the more big plays, I guess, him making those free throws, it just felt good. Y'all have heard everything he's been through and everything with him, and so that was good to see. Now, did our pick and roll defense actually get better, or did Florida just not know how to attack it effectively? During the game, they would run a little, I don't even know, it was a kind of pick, but I don't know. Castleton would just kind of float around, and they try and get Oscar to slide over and help. Sometimes they would set a screen with them. I don't know if our defense got better on situations such as that, or if Florida just didn't know how to attack it, such as Kansas did, per se. There were some rowdy Florida fans there. It looked like there was about 20 of them sitting over to the student sections left up here. And I don't know what they were doing. They all had matching Florida jerseys. I don't know who they were, but they were at the game rooting on Florida. And before the game, there was a manager for Florida, and he was he was sitting down on the bench. He made it through, like, as he's sitting in the chairs, and he was interacting with the students, talking to him. We were just making good time before the game. And then all of a sudden, he goes up there and just dunks one so easy. I'm like, why ain't this guy suited up? I mean, he just jumped up there, boom, easy little two-handed flush, just real quick like that. So, yeah. I don't know. Also, DJ Wagner was at the game, big recruit for Kentucky, got him over Louisville. They got Milk Wagner for a reason, and they couldn't get the job done. So DJ, he was at Kentucky. Obviously, he's come to Kentucky. He played a game in Frankfurt Friday night. I guess he stayed the night in Lexington, came to the game Saturday. I'd like to give a shout out to Gran. I did wear the hat that she got me for Christmas to the game, and also I want to talk about the crowd. It seemed like there was a lot of numbers there, but the energy just wasn't as big as Kansas. I mean, there were a couple months where Rupp tried to get on their feet, and just not everybody was really buying into it. So I don't know what happened there. It was an 8:30 tip, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it or what. But I mean, the numbers were there for sure, but the energy wasn't. So anyway, that's all we got for Kentucky. Now I'd just like to remind you all about some other sporting events and news. We are 1 week from the Super Bowl. I'm recording this on Sunday night. Super Bowl's in 1 week, next week on February the 12th. So make sure y'all tune into that. I believe it is on Fox. How about Kyrie Irving getting traded to the Dallas Mavericks? How's him and Luka going to work out? I mean, I don't personally. Kyrie's going to want to get his, and Luka, he's used to dropping these massive numbers, so they could clash. Who knows? And make sure to keep an eye on LeBron James. He's getting real close to being the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. Well, that's all we got for the post-game edition of the pregame show, folks. I'll see y'all later.